I was at Channel 13 doing the Channel 13 news and the Mike Wallace interview there, and a fellow by the name of David Walper, of whom I had never heard, came in and said that he wanted me to, if I would, do some interviews for and narrate the race for space. And I had no idea who he was or what his bona fides were. He said that he had an exclusive for Russian space film, which I found unlikely. Well, the fact of the matter is that he did indeed have an exclusive for Soviet space film. And when he began to show it to me, I said, well, why are you coming to me? He said, well, the networks. You see, the networks would not let an independent documentary producer on their air. NBC, CBS, and ABC would say, we are perfectly capable of doing our own documentaries. We want to control their editorial content and so forth. Who's going to let this outlander come in and do this kind of a very sensitive piece called The Race for Space? So he finally came to me and we made a deal, and The Race for Space, now it was a question of getting it on a network someplace. CBS had first refusal for some reason, and IBM was interested. But then the CBS said, couldn't happen. NBC said the same thing. ABC had the same. Effectively questioning his credentials as a documentarian and also saying editorial content belongs only to us. Well, Walper had good friends at the various agencies, and MCA decided that they were going to find some way to get this on the air, a lot of stations. So they sold it, MCA sold it to the Schulten cosmetic people, Old Spice, aftershave, and things of that nature. And I had a relationship of sorts with Jack Gould, who was the arbiter of the television critics back then. He was the New York Times television critic, and very, very persuasive, and he had a lot of clout and a lot of credibility. And I called Jack and told him about what was going on, and Jack said, that's a pretty good story, and sure enough, shortly thereafter, there was a front page story below the fold on the New York Times talking about the self-conscious monopoly that the networks had. Well, there was a fellow by the name of Grant Tinker, who was in advertising at the time. Tinker and another advertising guy, what was his name from BBD&O, and Walper. They put together 120 or 150 stations to syndicate it. It got wonderful notices, it made news, and it also broke a taboo that had been summarily and, in my estimation, unfairly placed upon independent documentary producers.